it's something that we've been planning for many, many years. We've had lots of complications with getting all the parties in agreement on the location of infrastructure. We're talking about a couple of water tanks and a pump station. We finally have, at least we feel, a really good agreement moving forward to get that in place. What that will do is allow all the development in the south and west of Mountain View. A lot of things have been paused there because the water infrastructure is not there. So this cleans up a lot of those things and will allow us to deploy those bond funds that we actually received a few years ago and help get all those things moving.
Welcome to Herrimanology,
the official podcast to keep up with Herriman City.
We'll take you inside the city, explore the latest news and updates, show you how your government operates, and discuss the issues that affect us all. Now, here are your hosts talking all things Herriman on Herrimanology.
All right, welcome to Herrimanology. It is Wednesday, August 14th. For a few more minutes, we just got out of the city council meeting. We're just doing this right now instead of tomorrow. I'm John LaFollette, communications manager for Herriman City, joined tonight by Councilmember Henderson. How are you doing?
Great.
You've had a long day. Thanks for sticking around a little longer.
It's been very long. This is one of all my hobbies become jobs, so got all of them in today.
Man, well, let's get into one of them, the city council meeting. We'll just go over a few highlights. There were a bunch of items, but we'll go over the most interesting ones. I want to start with a voting item that was a reimbursement agreement for a lot of water infrastructure. And we won't get into the mechanics of reimbursement agreements and how they work tonight, but why was this one significant, and what is the city agreeing to here?
There's several reasons that it's significant. One is it's something that we've been planning for many, many years. We actually secured the bond funds back in 2021, and we've had lots of complications with getting all the parties in agreement on the location of infrastructure. We're talking about a couple of water tanks and a pump station. So location across different property boundaries, different property owners, different developers. So there's a lot of moving parts that's taken a few years to kind of get all those things in line. We finally have, at least we feel, a really good agreement moving forward to get that in place. What that will do is really allow all the development on the south end of the city, I want to say south and west of Mountain View, right? That whole area, a lot of things have been paused there because the water infrastructure is not there. So this cleans up a lot of those things and will allow us to deploy those bond funds that we actually received a few years ago and help get all those things moving.
And that's anticipated price tag of just under about $16 million-ish, which is a lot of money. But that's how much it costs.
But that's what it costs. It's significant infrastructure that will help with some of the existing needs in that area, but will help feed all of the remaining development on that end of town.
Another item that was approved was an update to the city standards, development standards specifically manual. This is kind of an annual thing. It's a huge document. I think they said about 500 pages. I haven't read through it. I don't know if you have. But
in my tenure on the council, I've probably read every word at least once. But like you said, it's something we do on a regular basis. And as we've kind of changed city management and lots of different positions, really they've done a great job going through and, like I said, on an annual basis trying to clean up some of the language and some of our ordinances and procedures. And this is another step in that process. So we're making significant process. I think maybe the thing to mention there, why it's such a significant effort to clean this up over time, is that when the city was first incorporated, they really kind of just copied and pasted a lot of these things from the county ordinances at the time. And that was 25 years ago now. So not only are the county's things outdated, but our community's changed a lot. So just a lot of the language and the way it's being applied needs to be updated. So it's just a continual effort, and hats off to staff for doing that.
And this partly dictates how the process works for developers if they want to develop something, if they want to build roads or water lines or all the different components that go into development, what the city is deeming as acceptable and how developers get to that point.
Yes, and how we can enforce it, right? Hold them accountable and make sure that things are done the way that we need and want them to for our community.
Yeah. Herriman has a lot of street pole banners, or at least street poles that have the ability to have banners on them. People might have seen throughout the city, I'm sure you have, whether it's city decorations or high school teams that are featuring athletes, or down by RSL. there was a discussion about that program, what it has cost the city, and what do you think is changing going forward after tonight's discussion?
Well, it's something we've discussed off and on, I'd say, for 12 to 18 months. Staff keeps bringing it back to us because there are several concerning parts. One is there's a significant cost to put up and take down every one of those banners or even the city decorations. There's also a huge safety component. Some of the roads have nice wide shoulders where we can get the bucket truck in there to get them up and down safely. A lot of our roads don't anymore. 134th used to. It doesn't now. We've expanded all the lanes of traffic curb to curb, right, to accommodate that, which does not make it safe to put a bucket truck in a lane of traffic. It makes it even more expensive to have a police vehicle there to try to steer traffic around them. So we're just running into a lot of problems with it. At the same time, it's something that's great for the community. So our discussion was really around three things, I would say, is the cost. Roughly $75 to $100 per banner is the cost to put one up or take it down. Then there's a safety issue, but then there's a liability issue, right? So a lot of all the banners that are being put up are not by the city. They're from other organizations, whether it's a school district or a sports organization, etc. So the conversation's been around a policy of how do we pick and choose who goes in? If we say we open it up to anyone that wants to pay the cost, then that's literally everyone. That there may be some things that our community deems undesirable. Staff's recommendation actually was just to stop doing it altogether. For all of those reasons, our conversation kind of came back to, look, it's a kind of a good thing for our community. We really like what it does for us. And we recognize those limitations, so we've directed staff to go back and look at the safety issues, give us a suggestion on which streets we should stay away from, which ones are safe to do it, what's the actual cost to the city to do it, the groups that want to would have to pay that cost, and can we limit it to other, say, governmental agencies, our schools, our community partners, rather than just open it up to everyone. So some legal hoops to jump through. They're going to bring that back to us, and hopefully we'll be able to continue doing that for a while until some of those hurdles become too steep for us.
Yeah. Another discussion about special event permits, and these can be kind of tricky. These are things that are hosted by public agencies, but probably more often private groups or even individuals. What was this discussion about, and what might come back in 6, 8, 12 months?
I'd say kind of a similar discussion, right? The cost, the legal
implications, maybe.
Yeah, I mean the different hurdles to really jump over, right? The liability that there is and the true cost for some of these things. So, and where do you draw the lines, right? So if it's a public gathering, say at a park that exceeds the park's stated safety capacity, that's a little more obvious than somebody doing a party at their home. Where's the line that becomes a public safety issue, and we need to go through an event permitting process to accommodate for that. So a good discussion around that. The short version is we directed staff on several of those specific items. We implemented kind of staff's initial recommendation for that ordinance, knowing full well that as we go through the implementation process, that we'll need to adjust some things, as I call them pinch points, right? When something doesn't quite work or overlaps, then we can always go back and amend these things. But staff is asking for us to make some of these changes to help them in the implementation of their jobs.
Looking back into the work meeting, and again, work meetings are more for discussion about more complex items that are most often going to come back to a general meeting if it requires a vote, or just if the city council needs kind of a roundtable discussion. So there were a couple of things there. One, the Wasatch Front Regional Council presented an update on a study that's ongoing right now regarding transit. And Herriman's
doing yet another study.
Yeah, there have been a few, and there was some discussion, and they verbalized that they want to include a lot of stakeholders, whether it's city or UDOT and UTA, just kind of bring everybody to the table. And the city council, I don't want to put words in your mouth, but kind of saying, yes, we've seen this before. We've seen a lot of studies before, maybe not so much action, not as much action as we'd like. What was that discussion about, and what were your kind of thoughts about that?
Well, I mean, in my opinion, and it was stated by another council member in that discussion, that this is really a reaction to the legislation that Representative Perucci's bill, basically asking for some accountability from UTA as to where they're collecting funds from and spending them, knowing full well that the southwest of Salt Lake Valley, we're paying tens of millions of dollars in taxes and we have no transit. I mean, the city of Herriman doesn't even have a bus route. I believe Riverton and Bluffdale are in the same boat. Riverton might have a little bit. But there's a definite need for some of those dollars to be deployed here. So my feeling, and I think that of the majority of the council, is that this study is a reaction to the idea of that legislation, to kind of say, okay, we are paying attention to you. Our feedback to them respectfully was, we've seen this before. I personally have been involved with at least 2, maybe 3 studies and gotten way into the weeds, and we've to I guess maybe shorten my response, nothing ever comes of it. And there's a big disconnect between the study and all the good intentions and great talk to everyone just like we have before. In my opinion, they'll be duplicating a lot of what we've done, but there's a disconnect between that level and where the money would come from to actually do something, which is what the legislation is intended to do. So we'll keep working with them on a study and give our input and be involved, but we'll continue pursuing the other end of it at the state level to force some funds to actually be put to it to implement something.
Yeah, and I think the stated goal at this point from the council and from Wasatch Front Regional Council is, hopefully this is the last time we have one of these studies, and hopefully there's some funding efforts, and within a year or 2 or 3, we'll see some real progress on whether it's bus rapid transit or tracks or bus lines, just something out here. And we have VIA, which is better than nothing, certainly, but it's not quite,
it's
not the end
need.
goal.
And part of the conversation turned towards, and this has been an ongoing part of our feedback, is the need for agencies to work together. I call it the sandbox mentality, that each government agency looks at just their sandbox and they want to keep everybody else out of it and protect what they have. And I think there's a lot of that with UDOT, UTA, and others. If they can work more together, use common transportation corridors and things like that, not only would save taxpayers money, but be far more effective. So we gave them a lot of feedback that way, and hopefully
fingers crossed.
Something will come with this one.
Yeah. There was another discussion about the Planning Commission appointment process. This one came up specifically because there's one Planning Commission member whose 3-year term has expired, and the City Council would need to reappoint or appoint someone else. That was this discussion, and it kind of spurred another conversation about representation on the Planning Commission and how that should take the members that make up the Planning Commission. What was that discussion about?
Well, it kind of branched into 2 different discussions. One is we have the one Planning Commission member whose term is up and he would like to continue, and so we need to make a decision on that. But the conversation moved more towards the process. We need to improve, and we've talked about it over the years, and our planning department's done a great job of improving that. In my tenure, I think our Planning Commission is miles ahead of where it was when I first got involved in all of this, organizing my neighborhood to come to meetings and get involved. So I think our Planning Commission is in a great place. We have qualified people. What I think the public needs to understand about the Planning Commission is twofold. One is they're pretty much volunteers. They get paid a pittance for each meeting appearance. Correct me if I'm wrong, but I think it's $100
something along those lines
for each meeting, and that's it. And they put in hours and hours of work, not just at the meeting, but just like we do in preparation of the packets and training and all those sorts of things. So I can't express enough gratitude to them for being willing to do it. And we have some really qualified people that are doing it because they live here. They're concerned about our community, want to make it better, but they have professional experience in areas that we need them to. So hats off to all of them. Or our discussion went to is kind of the process we need to go to recruit new Planning Commission members. What does that look like? Should we have a requirement that we need to have of the 7 full members? We have 3 alternates. Of the 7, should we have a requirement that there has to be at least 1 from each district like we do with the City Council? We discussed the pros and cons of that. and the process of how to bring people through. When we have someone that's up for reappointment, the city council appoints them. So it comes to us. The feedback we gave to staff was that we want some information, right? We need to have a review process of some metrics of their performance over there, whether it's attendance and credentials and all those sorts of things. That's something we can look at to base our decision on. So we talked about the process and some things we'd like to see, and that'll same thing as everything else. It's a continual process to try to improve things. So from my perspective, I got involved in this to fight high density and improve all these things. I'm really pleased with where our planning commission has come to. And the other thing I think public should need to know, without being too long-winded, planning commission's main job really is to make sure that as requested changes come through or developments, that they are in line with our ordinances, right? That they match. They aren't making legislative decisions. That's the council's area, but they're making sure that things fit within the guidelines. If someone requests to build a garage in their backyard, they've got to notice the neighbors, right, and go through that process and make sure that people can express their concerns, how it affects them, and they review those things. So hopefully that helps, but I think it's great, and we'll keep working on it.
Last thing, outside of the city council meeting, it's been raining a lot this week. If you've been around here, that's how it is every August, but it seems like we've just been dumped on with rain. And all that rain goes into gutters and drains and stormwater facilities. And some of those facilities are detention ponds where you'll see 99.9% of the time they're parks. L&L Hamilton Park, or a lot of others that kind of have the dip into the park area. The water goes in there. When the water goes in there, the parks are putting on a different hat. They become detention or retention facilities to hold water. Right. And it is very tempting for people
They're not swimming
to
pools.
go play in it and treat it as a water park. And same thing with the canals. The water in those canals goes really fast and it rises really fast. We really just want to encourage people stay away from those. As fun as it may look, it's just not safe, and we don't want something bad to happen to somebody.
Yeah, and it definitely can. I mean, the risks are real, and this might sound a little alarmist, right? Well, people are just trying to have fun. But I just want to try to put it in perspective a little bit. So one, the dual use of the detention, retention basins and parks, right? Those are areas that have to be there specifically for these events, right? In the stormwater system, there has to be an overflow more or less to handle the water. That's what they're designed to do. And rather than have them just sit there or be filled with rocks and unusable space, us and many other cities choose to landscape them and make them a usable park area when they're not being used for their designed purpose of retaining that stormwater. So absolutely, there's going to be both those uses. When there's a storm event like we've had recently and they fill with water, there are so many hazards. One is it is stormwater. It has washed debris down. It could be sticks and stones and razor sharp metal. You don't know what's in there.
Fertilizer, motor oil.
And then we talk about all the things that get carried with it, from fertilizer, motor oil, animal feces. Just think of all the dog poop that people don't clean up. All of that is in there, and I'm watching videos of people getting up and water running down their face, and I'm like, oh, it's just, it's dangerous and it's just gross. I mean, it's in insurance parlance, we'd call it an attractive nuisance. It might look like it's fun on the surface, but just think about that. It's just disgusting in it, and it's dangerous. People get hurt all the time.
And there's some culverts is what they're called, tunnels that are under roadways. Those are very, very dangerous areas.
Very fast moving water, and if you get stuck, you're stuck. Yep. Very, very, very dangerous. Please stay away from those. We've watched kids walk down in there, nearly get caught, washed away. Some of our dry creeks that fill during these times, super dangerous. Same thing, lots of debris. It will carry you away. We really don't want to see a tragedy there.
Yeah. Don't want to be the fun police. Just please be safe. Make smart decisions. Enjoy the rain. I love watching storms, but you got to keep your distance from flowing water. So.
And even with all the rain, it is fire season. Please be smart with what you're doing out there with our dry areas as well.
Yep. A couple of dry days soaks up all that moisture and it kind of does the reverse effect, and the fire danger is always high here.
This time of year, our emergency responders are busy. Please don't add to that.
Well, that will end your busy day. Hopefully
Anxious for some rest.
Hopefully you can go get some sleep. That's going to be all for this week. Thank you for listening and watching, and we will catch you next time.